So, investment, risk. We could also call this risk, essentially. What are they risking by making choices in the game? Because that's what makes things interesting. Moment to moment. So the first thing that they invest, that they risk, is time. The player's time is valuable to them. They don't want to waste it unnecessarily. They are spending time to play your game, but they hope to sort of get something out of it. Why don't they take the long path to the goal? If you have sort of two paths, one's shorter, one's longer, they don't take the long path unless it seems like that's going to get them something extra. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to get them something extra, they'll take the short path. A close opportunity, something that's close to you, will be explored before one that's off in the distance, because you're here already, so you might as well explore this. And if you ever want to explore it again, you're going to have to come back to this space in order to explore it. So if you save it to later, that's you have to come all the way back. So a short dead end will sort of be explored before kind of an open field. So that's time. Next bit of investment the player puts into the game is resources. So games have what's called intrinsic value, and that is that there are things that are of value that are wholly contained within the game. Things like things you collect, things like ammo, health, mana or magic, experience, gold. These things you earn in game, and you feel like you earn, and you collect. You feel more powerful for having them. As you play the game, you gain resources, and you lose some of them. When you enter combat, you stand to lose ammo by shooting your enemies or missing your enemies. You stand to lose health. They could hurt you. You could lose magic if it takes magic points or mana in order to cast your spells. And then after combat, assuming that you are successful, and if you're not, then you lose the time that you risked into this combat. But assuming you are successful, you may gain some of your resources back, but you may not get all of them. Or you may gain other resources, gold, experience, or new weapons, so on. So that's resources that you risk. Now, skill. So skill is a little bit different. You don't really necessarily lose skill by playing the game. In fact, actually, we could argue that you actually, as you play the game, you generally gain skill. But even still, skill is something that the player invests in any sort of situation, and they expect a reward for it. So beating a difficult enemy, jumping across a difficult platform. Overcoming difficulty is investing in a game. So when you overcoming difficulty, when you beat an enemy, it's possible that they won't leave you any reward. So you are investing the skill to defeat them, and you may not get something back. So essentially, that is a skill that you're sort of the skill is essentially what you are risking in that situation. Another investment that you give is in competence. Competence is something that's really hard to measure, but it is definitely what I'd call a limited commodity. When you lose too much in a row, you start to believe you're a loser. You start to believe you're not good at this game. When you win too much, the game becomes boring. It's not a challenge. When you do win, you may gain confidence back that you've lost. And if you're low on confidence, you tend to make decisions that seem easier to win so that you can gain back that confidence. So this is a commodity that we're sort of gaining and losing by playing the game. So you're risking the fact that you could lose in any particular situation. Another investment is in perception and observation. So having a keen eye and spotting something that might be missed is an investment. This could actually be categorized as maybe a skill, but in exploration design, it's common enough to consider on its own. The player being able to spot hidden paths, the best paths, being able to read the environment despite objects of occlusion, seeing small details that may lead to big rewards, hidden paths, I guess, the path that other players might not see. And when players invest in their perception and observation in gameplay, they expect to get a reward for that. And it's not always paid off. Sometimes you see details in the game that really have no value. Next, we look at progression. So progression, how far you progress in the game. This could be closely related to sort of time investment, but it's more than that. When you miss a jump and you find yourself on the ground far below and you have to climb back up, you haven't just lost time, but there's a sense of earned progress that has been lost. When the player decides that they take one path that takes them back all the way to where they started, although it may feel good that you understand that connection, but you also feel like you've lost a sense of progression there. And finally, what I call the missed reward. So essentially that this is especially sort of part of the psychology of completionist players. So when you move on from a space and you're intent on never returning, you're sort of risking losing the rewards that might be there. And so because of this, players will often sort of choose paths that is part of whatever their current space's identity before they move on to a new space. So they want to sort of complete this space before they move on, at least until they're more confident in their choice. So essentially, if they feel like it's safe to risk, then they may move on. But this is a risk nonetheless. So that's investment. That's player investment, player risk, what they're risking when they choose one choice versus another. So let's talk about the flip side of that, which is obviously reward.